In the 2000s, the EU said yes to 12 new Eastern European and Mediterranean countries. Now, could the next few years witness yet another enlargement for the EU? I don't think so. Why, you ask? Well, I believe there is a chance the EU might collapse, or at least start to fall apart, by the end of the decade. And here is why. First things first, the wrong reasons. Some say EU institutions have a democratic deficit. They are not very powerful and effective because they don't answer directly to EU citizens. The argument is that people respect authorities more when they can control them. This also means citizens need to know a lot and care about institutions to give them respect, based on having the power to remove or not re-elect those in charge. But here's why that argument isn't quite right. First, in 2014, things got better with the Spitzenkandidat process. This process lets the directly elected parliament choose the head of the commission, giving citizens more say. However, it is not clear that the democratic deficit actually decreased. The second reason is interesting. People often respect institutions even when they have zero control. For example, the Prefect of France controls a lot of local matters but answers to the Interior Ministry. Also, think about the Chamber of Lords or the Queen in the United Kingdom. People still show them a lot of respect, even though they cannot control them directly. Responsibility without power. The major reason the EU is seen as failing is that it's given big responsibilities in public life, but not enough power. The only areas where it does have power, like competition policy and monetary policy, aren't very popular. The European Commission makes laws and takes stances on everything from farming to internet rules, but the actual decisions are made by member states in the Council or their own capitals. Since the Council's decisions aren't transparent, member states can make false claims about what Brussels, referring to the EU institutions, can do. Take Frontex for example, the agency for the EU's external borders. It sounds powerful, but it actually has no say over borders. It's just a coordinator that helps member states work together on border control. It doesn't own vehicles or planes, and it has no border guards outside of its Warsaw office. But when things go wrong with migration policies or border actions, people blame Frontex, even though it has no control or authority. It is easier to blame an institution with no power than to understand the complex situation. Some say Europe lacks a clear identity, but the EU has many recognizable parts. It is embodied in various institutions, and this makes it an easy target for criticism. Moving on, we have communication. European institutions haven't really connected with national media outlets on a large scale. European politicians don't often appear on talk shows outside their home country. It's not like TV stations are actively seeking interviews with politicians like Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the European Commission. But with a good press officer, she could probably be featured on popular shows like Das Erste, TF1, and Rai 1 regularly enough to become as well known as a national figure. The Commission and the Parliament did support media organizations trying to create a European public sphere like CAF Babel and Press Europe. However, most information for European citizens still comes from national sources. EU institutions missed out on gaining the legitimacy they need by not engaging with influential national media, especially TV stations. Without a clear communication strategy, the EU's relatively high transparency has actually worked against them. Because there is so much information, people often turn to it for stories. Wrongdoings that might go unnoticed at the national level become big news at the European level. I argue that this is because it is much easier to access data related to EU institutions compared to investigating a $5,000 fraud case in a small town in a member state. Yup, you heard that right. Favoritisms. The financial data from the past decade backs up this idea. According to International Monetary Fund stats, the per capita GDP, how much money each person makes on average, grew a lot more in some bigger countries. Germany's per capita GDP went up by 19%, and the Netherlands saw a 14% increase from 2010 to 2016. But for countries like Greece, things went the other way, and they had a decline. And with this, you wonder why the case. I mean, there's a bit of a double standard here because the original agreement said that budget deficits cannot be more than 3% of the nation's GDP. Another issue is the tax structure in the Union, which makes it tough for new companies to grow. None of the major businesses in the EU across important industries started in the last 30 years. When you see companies like Google, Amazon, or Facebook booming in the past couple of decades, it is clear that there is a lack of development for new businesses in European Union countries. Education. Now, in European states, national identity is exclusive and in almost all cases defines the state. Because it's exclusive, national identity has to, by nature, be defined against other identities. For example, being Czech means not being Slovak. These national identities are taught to Europeans in school. History lessons often don't explain the power struggles behind historical events. Instead, they present facts in a way that supports the state by emphasizing the existence of the nation. You do not have to be against your own nation to get this argument. When a history book claims to tell a country's story from ancient times to today, the very framework it uses assumes the country's existence throughout history, even if it doesn't make much sense. For example, thinking of France as a unified entity before the 16th century doesn't really add up, and this applies to every country. This approach led to some strange reactions, like when Austria protested because a TV show included Mozart on the list of the 100 greatest Germans of all time. Mozart was born in Salzburg, now in Austria. It also results in conflicting views of history, where one's country's victory is another's defeat. These oppositions make it hard for a European sentiment to develop. For instance, how many people in France know about the Battle of the Nations, Germany's crucial fight against Napoleon in 1813? Or how many in Britain know about the struggles of the Polish army at Monte Cassino in 1944, a significant moment in Poland's post-war history? Now, the question remains, how can we bring people together despite our different backgrounds? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you found this video as thought-provoking as a history class without the textbooks, hit that like button and share your insights in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe for more mind-expanding content. Catch you in the next video.